Good morning, traders. Today is Monday, January 18th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. The Pirate Traders live stream. All right, so what are we looking at here in the market? Well, we had a bit of a rollover last week in the market. It had started to look like earlier in the week like we were getting a bounce and we were going to start to head back up towards all-time highs. But instead what happened was we got some resistance just below that balancing area that we had at the all-time highs. And then we sold off once again on Friday. And right now we are opening pretty much at Friday's lows. So what does that tell us? That tells us that the momentum to the downside is still intact here. Okay, that this low that we created on the 9th wasn't necessarily the final low for the market, which made sense, right? We talked about it when we formed that low, that it was very bizarre that we created a low just one tick above the top of a gap that needed backfilling. So it looks like the market may not be done with the attempt to backfill that gap down there at 45.64. And we shall find out here today, likely. So what we're looking at, oh man, we're right on the edge. I hate mornings when we're right on the edge like this because it's a hard scenario to teach. It's a hard scenario to explain. But essentially, if we open inside yesterday's range, so above this white line that represents yesterday's low, we will be looking for chop early in the morning here. We'll be looking for the market to grind up and down. I would say likely between this node from the overnight and this node here. So if we open above that white line, we're looking to kind of bounce around in here for the beginning of the day. And then which direction do we break? Do we break out to the upside or to the downside, right? But if we open below yesterday's range, it completely changes our outlook. Even if we open just a few ticks below yesterday's range, we're then looking at a gap and a potential gap and go scenario lower. So what we'd be looking for if we open below yesterday's range is we'll be looking for the market to push up to yesterday's low and then see if it finds resistance there. If it does, I'll be looking for continuation lower, and if it's able to break through, to test this node up here. Okay? To me, this still feels, like I say, a little bit bearish. I think we're either going sideways today and we're going to start developing a balancing area inside of here. So we'll probably rotate up to the opposite end of balance and then find resistance. Or we are in a continuation of that downside move, to which I would be targeting the gap fill at 45.6350. Yeah, 63.50. So yeah, what happens at the open here in a couple minutes is going to be pretty important. Do we get resistance at yesterday's low and head down to fill that gap? Do we get back into yesterday's range? In which case we're looking for chop inside yesterday's range. And I would say I would use this node right here as the potential resistance to the upside. If we break through that, so if we get through say 46.38, if we can get through there, I'd be willing to head back up to test the highs from Friday. Okay. We don't include yesterday's trade. We just completely ignore that. Pretend it's not even there. So this is what we consider yesterday's range, and we're playing to that. Okay. So it looks like we did open with a very small gap lower. Just a few ticks. We instantly filled the gap. So now we're looking for, do we get resistance right here and start to head lower? That would be bearish, targeting those that gap that needs filling below. And if they can break back into yesterday's range, we're watching to see what happens when we get up here to about the 46.30 area. Okay. It's looking bearish. All right. Well, Jesus, this is happening quick. Normally I don't get bearish this quick, but with a potential gap and go, I would say I am bearish now to head down and backfill that gap that needs filling to 45.63. And I would, of course, change myself back to neutral if we get back up into yesterday's range, Friday's range. The internals did open very bearish due to the overnight inventory being net short. So I would have expected some kind of counter auction to the upside. That's why I'm a bit surprised by this. Next potential support is going to be the overnight low. Tuttle, would you consider today's high to be weak? I absolutely would. I would consider that a weak high, as it is one tick above yesterday's high. We may get a chance to test it if they can find support here at the overnight low. Good morning, Diego, Ronald, Philip, Jay Trader, the Shavaran, Freddie back with us, David Glass, Scooball, and Cotton Dog. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you. Cotton Dog, is my last name Goff or Hugh? No, it's Goff. I definitely spelled my name right. But thank you for asking. Cot, good morning to you. San Diego Trader, welcome. Danielle back with us. Good morning. NW in the house. Good to see you. Steven is here. Good morning to you. Jay Trader, the initial balance show. Yeah, that's what I should call it. I should call it the initial balance show. MW Charles, are there single prints in the overnight profile? Yes, there is. You can see where that yellow line is right there. That for the W period in the overnight. Those were single prints. Just looking at it from here, I can almost see the story. Oh, there's another setup here. I can almost see the story was like the market thought they were going to build support and go higher. So when they fell down here and they started to try to build support right around where we built it on Friday, right around the POC, they were hoping to get a bounce there. And when they didn't get a push back up, the market just tanked. Never came back up. So that's bearish. Okay, so once again, we're testing this overnight low. Can we find support here? If we do, we'll head back up to test yesterday's low. If not, I think that gap below is still in play. AMZ selling, good morning to you. Welcome. Diego Charles, for SP, the opening range is how long? The opening range. I'm not sure I understand what you're asking. So what we consider the opening range is like the first hour of the day, what we call the initial balance. And so if you look at the bottom of the screen right here, you'll see it shows you how big of a range we have within that initial balance so far. That's ticks, not points. That might help you out. I'm not sure what you're asking there, though. David V., good morning to you. Amir, good to see you. Lamus back with us. Design knob armor. Marnin R. Big Ray, good morning to you. Revdron, greetings to you. Welcome. Tuttle, can you help us reading tempo, please? Nothing has stood out to me about the tempo so far. It's pretty normal. The main thing to watch for when it comes to tempo is changes in tempo, right? The market's very slowly grinding at a certain area, and then the tempo suddenly changes. There's been a change in the market. Pay close attention, me hearties. At this point, if you're in a short from up here because you saw the gap and go, I think it would be safe to put your stop up here around 97-ish. This halfback area should act as resistance when the market pushes back up into it for continuation down to fill the gap. If they're able to get back through that area now, they'd probably be heading back up to test the high, the week high. So I would say if you're in a short, you could put your stop above that node somewhere, 97 or higher, and that should act as resistance. Still targeting 45.63.50. Let's jump over and see what the NQ is doing this morning. Looks like it's playing the same game as the ES, but we'll take a look. Okay, exact same thing. Opened with a gap down. Found support right at yesterday's low, making it a week high here on the NQ as well. NQ currently finding support around its overnight low. If that breaks, I'd be looking for further downside continuation on the Q. Yikes. Going to have to look at the 200 daily moving. The Q is getting pretty bearish. Huh. Okay, so yeah, next major target for the NQ is going to be support at the 200 simple moving average on the daily, which is at 14,967. It doesn't mean we have to get down there today, but that stands out to me. Also some potential support resistance right at the previous low, 15,153. That's pretty much the next target for it if we get continuation. So essentially, if this support down here just above yesterday's or the overnight low breaks, I'd be looking to target that that low over there at 15,152. Okay. Back to the ES. Okay, we're testing that resistance right now around halfback that I mentioned. So if the market finds resistance there, it should head back down to repair that gap. If it's able to break back through this resistance, then we would be looking to test the high of the day to repair that weak high. So this area here, I don't have an exact number for you, but somewhere between like 93 and 97. There'll be resistance in there. Looking for another push lower. Cotton Dog, thank you for the reminder that Trading Donkey's gone this week. Yeah, he's on vacation. Oh, no. All right. Well, that resistance did not hold in the NQ. In the ES. So this is the market absorbing the overnight inventory. What does that mean, Charles? When you say the market's absorbing the overnight inventory, what on earth does that mean? Well, most of the participants in the overnight would have had to have been short, right? Because they opened up here. For them to close down here, more of the players would have been short than long. It's the only way you can move the market that far. And so those people need to take profits on their shorts, which is the same as going long. It's positive pressure on the market. So it looks like instead of taking profits first thing in the morning, they're taking them now. So the next stop is back to yesterday's high. Yesterday's low, today's high, looking for resistance there. Can we repair the weak high, getting a couple ticks above? And does doing so cause us to sell right back down? Or do we start to work our way up into yesterday's range? Working our way up into yesterday's range would get me neutral again. Finding resistance would keep me bearish. All right, NQ about to test that low from yesterday. So same as the ES. If it finds resistance there, I remain bearish for a further push lower. If we're able to get through it and get back up into yesterday's range, I go back to neutral. Looking for a new trading opportunity. Time-wise, Diego, do you use 10-minute or 30-minute? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Are you asking, like, do I consider 30 minutes the initial balance? Or the initial move or whatever? Yeah, I don't really think about things that specifically. You know, I'm not like, from this time of day to this time of day, X or Y is happening. I just kind of take it as I see it. I know in the first hour of the day, we need to absorb the overnight activity. So if we are net short or net long, I will look for a counter auction. And then depending on whether we get the counter auction or don't get it, and what happens when we do, I take my position from there. You know what I mean? I don't know if that helps at all, but the point is there's no exactness. I take each day as its own thing, and I just go by what's happening at that moment in the market at that particular time. Nicholas, good morning to you. J Trader, last Monday low support, 45.73. No, see, that's why I'm saying I don't think that's support, because I think those were weak hands that bought that. It's no longer marked on the chart, but the top of this gap was, I think, one tick below there. Yeah. So if we zoom in here, we created this gap on the 21st, okay, from the 20th to the 21st. And when we had that pullback the other day, we stopped literally one tick above that. That is a sign of short-term traders, weak hands, buyers. So I wouldn't, will we get a little bounce there? Sure, we'll get a little bounce there today, I'm sure. But to me, it's not strong hands that are buying that level. The strong hands are waiting to fill the gap. They've been waiting for a month. Literally almost exactly a month. They've been sitting on their hands waiting for the market to come back and fill that gap. That's where the strong hand buyers are. And Jay Trader, thank you for the reminder. Everyone, please smash that like button. There's 104 people here. Only got 34 likes happening. So that means that roughly 70% of you hate me and you want me to die a slow and miserable death. Thanks a lot. Could have just pushed the thumbs up, but instead I have a slow and miserable death. Thank you, guys. You can see as soon as you started pushing the like button, I got 10 new viewers that popped in. It really does happen with exactness. Some of you were wondering, Charles, can you teach me how you knew to get bearish so quickly this morning? The market opened, wasn't even open 2 minutes, and you recognized that something was funky. Why was that? Can you teach me how to think like you think? 100% yes, I can, and I will right now. Okay, so basically, on Friday, right, we had momentum to the downside. We had the market was overlapping to lower on value the day before on Thursday, and we had the massive sell-off with a spike down, which was very, very bearish going into Friday. Friday opened all the way down here. We had a massive gap down. Gap downs usually that are that big usually cause further continuation. So we had a gap that was this big on Friday to the downside. So normally when you get a gap that big, you try to fill it and fail, and then you head lower. But we didn't do that, right? Instead, we barely tested below the opening price at all. And then we pushed back higher, built a lot of support throughout the day in this area in here. And then we had a spike in the M period. We actually made new highs in the last 10 minutes of the day. So that to me was kind of bullish. It was like maybe we've finished absorbing this down move. Maybe we're good to go. And so this morning, I came into the charts looking at something called spike rules. Spike rules. So this was the spike from Friday. It was only a few points, but there it is. And so I was looking at that spike and I was saying if we open inside of it, that would be sort of neutral. If we open, that would be bullish above it. But if we open below it, that would be the least bullish scenario. So I open up the charts this morning. I see we're about to open down here. Instantly, spike rules tell me, well, that's the most bearish outcome of the spike rules. Okay, interesting, right? I look at the overnight activity. I see that most of the volume and most of the time was spent down here at the lower end of yesterday's range, right? So that's a little bit bearish for me to see. So then the final sort of nail in the coffin was the gap and go. We opened below yesterday's price, came back up. We literally only got one tick into yesterday's range and then started to sell lower. So right there, I already knew this market is bearish and needs a pullback to find buyers. Okay? So it's adding up all the different signals together that gives you the confidence to trust the gap and go. Danielle, we love you, Charles. Thank you. I love you too. Adele, what levels are the gaps, please? So the gap that we're looking to fill, the gap above is already filled. We backfilled that. That was to yesterday or to Friday's low. Okay. The gap below, it starts at 45.73 and goes down to 45.63.50. So I'd expect we get a little bit of a bounce, like I said, at that previous low. But then the next one that gets us down into the gap significantly increases the odds we're filling it. Oh man, and that gap is also the filling that gap is exactly the 100 daily SMA. That's interesting. So there'll definitely be some support in there. That's for sure. Okay, market internals are looking a little bearish here. You got both the breadth and the advancers versus decliners are below the zero line. And you got the ticks trying to trend higher, but still remaining below the zero line. The Shaw, how relevant are overnight single prints compared to the ones that are left during regular trading hours? I don't have a good answer for that. I don't trade the overnight. I never have. So I don't really understand the overnight like I understand regular trading hours. There is a certain way the market during the regular trading hours moves. There are certain things that just happen with consistency over and over again. That's why I love trading the ES, because there really are patterns to how it does things. But it functions completely differently in the overnight. It's a totally different market. And so I'm not really as good at reading the overnight as I am the regular trading hours. I would say fundamentally it means the same thing, right? It means single prints that are left behind are a sign of a change in the market. So a triple distribution to the downside is a sign of bearishness to the downside. And that has played out here so far. But I don't get overly caught up looking at overnight signals. I'm more focused on the basics. Was it long or short going into the open? And then the high and the low as potential support resistance. Come on, gap fill, get it going. Get us to 45, 63, 50. Come on, gap fill, make it happen. Market wants to pay me money for my idea. Skewball, what if ticks are trending higher but under the zero line? That's a great question. So that's a sign to you that the momentum is trying to shift, right? If the ticks are getting, each tick is higher than the previous, meaning higher lows and higher highs, then the market is trying to find support and reverse itself. The buyers are making an attempt to step in, and you just don't know that they've won yet until they get it back above the zero line. Now, sometimes you miss opportunities to trade if you wait for that, right? Like it might not get above the zero line until we're back above half back. And so you're giving up on going long anywhere in here if you're going to wait for that signal. So it can be kind of frustrating. But if you're short, it can be a great signal to stay in the short. As long as those ticks remain below the zero line, the sellers are still winning, even if the buyers are trying to recover the market. So that's the way I look at that. Partha, welcome. Been a long time. How long's it been? Why haven't you been hanging out? We've been missing you. Everyone talks about it. Okay, so with the printing of the B period, we have pulled the point of control lower, which is a little bit bearish to see. We also pulled the value area lower, which is a little bit bearish to see. And as I've mentioned before, anytime you see the value area pushing right up against the highest or lowest tick of the day, it's a sign the market needs some more excess to the downside. It doesn't mean it has to get down there and create some excess. It's just one signal that it might need some more excess down there. Okay, the buyers are trying to recover it here. Will they succeed or will they fail? Felipe, Charles, I use the end period, so I don't have a gap to be filled, but I do have a week low from 45.72. Yeah, that's the same low I'm calling the poor low. But you're right. Technically, it was actually weak, not poor. He's saying that it's weak because it stopped one tick from the day that I counted as the gap. I see what you're saying. So for him, what is the A and B? What is the A period of my overnight? That is his end period of his regular trading hour session, which means this day perfectly came down, filled got to the previous day's high, found support there, and then continued higher, which would mean this area doesn't need to be repaired. But that's the way I do it with my charts. But of course, the low is weak no matter what because we made it within a point of this low. Oh, man. So I would describe this, looking at the market right now, like the market is trying to go lower, but it is not doing a very good job of it. The buyers are defending. Screwball, if ticks below zero and market is not going lower, it means possibility of reversal. If ticks are trending higher and below zero, yes. Just below zero, no. It means exactly the opposite of that. It means that the momentum is to the downside, and that the higher probability is continuation lower. But yeah, if the ticks are trending higher and they just haven't gotten past the zero line yet, that is a sign the buyers are about to take over. So once again, this same node of resistance I was looking at as resistance before, looking for it to hold here in the B period. If we break through that, meaning we get above 97, that would be a little bit bullish to see. That would also get, yep, there you go. Ticks are back above the zero line, so the buyers are stepping in. Let's see if they can get through this resistance. Philip, I only trade the NQ. No, NQ looks exactly the same as the ES to me here. It's building support. Buyers are trying to step in. Yeah, there you go. Initial balance to the upside. So now you can look for support around the opening price on a pullback. Right around that 15,349 level. And next resistance to the upside is going to be this node from the overnight, starting at about 430 up to 450. Man, we're beginning to one time frame lower on the weekly. Obviously, it's the first day of the week, but that's bearish. All right, so looks like they got through that resistance. That's a little bit bullish to see. Got the ticks back above the zero line. The buyers are putting in their fight now. Next stop is, can they get above the low from yesterday, or from Friday at 46.06? That would get me back to a neutral stance. Charles, why aren't you bullish yet? Right? You thought that this area we're in right now was going to hold as resistance. We pushed above it. Why aren't you getting all excited and going long the market? Well, there's still too many signals that suggest continuation to the downside. To truly convince me to go long, we'd have to push back into yesterday's range, come back down, and then find support somewhere in here around yesterday's low. I would buy that support for continuation. But right now, this is still screaming short to me. And I would say no matter what, if the B period stays inside the A period for the next 15 minutes, we could go with whichever direction it breaks. That will be a very high probability play. But right now, I would still describe this market as buyers trying to defend and just not doing a very good job. And what happens when those buyers get squeezed? Skewball rotation? Yeah, it's still too early to make a rotational call, but that's certainly what it's starting to feel like. The Shaw, that was some heavy absorption towards the low of the day. Yeah, you're right. And it's not textbook good taper, but it's acceptable taper as well. But it's what I was just talking about with those weak hands buyers. If the people that bought in here, right, if they win, if the market's able to get its way back up into yesterday's range, when it starts to pull back down, they're going to pile in even more, and we're going to get continuation higher. But if they can't, if the buyers who bought in down here, they don't get anything for it, if the market just tries to go higher and fails and starts to pull back down below here, then what happens to all those buyers? Right? If they created enough momentum to push us up to here with their long trades, they should be able to create an equal amount of momentum to the downside when they exit. We shall see. What's it going to be? James, Edge still showing 70% S&P stocks below POC and 28% above POC. That's so interesting. Is that real time, like at this moment, today's POC? I didn't realize that they provided that kind of data. That's pretty cool. Rocket, Vic still down. Vic still down. Where's the fear and panic? Oh, that's because I'm on the weekly. Let's say it's on its way up. Going up. Ding, ding. Oh, man. Bitcoin down to 41. There she goes. As soon as they break the higher lows on the 4 hour, let's guarantee you that's when it happened. Higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. Broke the higher lows, sell off. Yes, sir. So next stop for the corn. So retest of 40900. Retest of that, looking for support. If that fails, like 3800 is the next target. Maybe 39. Yes, between 39 and 37.5 is your next support. On the Bitcoin. All right, so we're making another attempt at getting above the zero line. This one's a little bit more bullish than the previous because we had the attempt to sell off here in the B period that found support. So it means in the A period, when we pushed lower, buyers stepped in down here. Okay. B period, tried to take off, couldn't get anywhere for it, pulled back down. And what happened? Once again, the buyers stepped in here. So that's a little more bullish to see. But once again, I'm not going long till we get inside yesterday's range. Danielle, back to 30,000. 30,000 on what? Never been to 30,000. I mean, we got halfway there on the queue. What was the all-time high? Like 16? Oh, Bitcoin. Big, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Bitcoin back to 30,000. Yeah, I think that could happen. Oh, 30,000. Oh, shit. I mean, that's the floor. 28 is the floor. Back to 30,000. It's possible, but what you have to realize is the accumulation for the last push happened in here, right? So we had accumulation in here. We pushed higher. That failed. It pulled back down into here, accumulated in here again, broke out again. So that's where you assume the market's going to find support, somewhere above 28, somewhere in here. But if that fails, if these lows over here fail, oh no, that is 30, those lows. Oh shit. So maybe. Yeah, I zoomed out too much. So I would say first test like 38 for support. And if that fails, then yeah, 30 is the target. 31. Okay, back to the ES and NQ. My dude, really? All right, well, we're getting some rotation here. We're getting some indecision. So I think from here on out, this was something Donkey and I were discussing on Thursday of last week. When you're inside the initial balance, when the B period still hasn't broke the A period high or low, if the C period doesn't break that A period high or low, as long as you remain inside that initial balance, you're probably best off thinking about the market in terms of rotation. So short above the POC, long below. But then whichever direction it breaks out of the initial balance, you want to go with that direction. So if it breaks the A period high first, you want to be going long with the market. If it breaks the A period low first, you want to go short with the market. There is the C period. So yeah, whichever way that C period breaks, whether it breaks the A period high or the A period low, you want to go with that direction. And as long as it's inside that A period, just treat it like rotation. Assume it's going to keep grinding up and down. So you want to be trading reversion to the mean. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining. Two Manifs, good morning to you. Welcome. MW, or it is set in initial balance. No, I don't think we're going to have a rotational day here. I don't think so. Because usually if you get a rotational day where it starts rotational right from the beginning of the day, it happens because you're inside of a balancing area. You're inside of a larger balancing area. And so, if we'd opened inside yesterday's range, if we'd opened up in here, I could easily see us just rotating all day in a tight range. But the fact that we opened lower is a sign the market wants to move to a new place. So I think this is just temporary kind of grinding here. And that, like I said, whichever direction we break the A period, I think the market's going to get some continuation. If we break the A period high, we should at the very least get up to 32-ish, if not all the way up to 56. If we break the low, we should at the bare minimum get down to 63, if not much further, to where that 100 daily is. Oh, that is 63. So yeah, just got to kind of wait for the market to pick its direction. But I do think it's trying to pick one. Cyrus, I accept your apology, but God damn it, you got to say hi tomorrow. Otherwise, I don't know you're there. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you tomorrow morning. If you're a member of the Brigade, head on over to the private stream, and we'll hang out together there.